2016 Jeep Wrangler Unlimited. It looks like it. Must be, it's a common Jeep, I guess. I don't know. But anyways, it's got the V6 in it. It's got a engine light on, and it's got a misfire. They said on a couple cylinders. Apparently a shop in town took a look at it. They said there some low compression or something. I'm not sure. But we got the Autel Ultra hooked up, the VCMI hooked up. And we're going to go ahead and do a full system scan. And see what we got in there. So we'll do a full system scan. Sorry about the glare, as normal. And we'll take a look and go from there. Alright, so we're doing a full system scan. It's got topology here. So far there's one on the ECM, one on the TPM. Don't care about that right now. And let's see what we got. What is the TPM anyways? Tire pressure, yeah, I don't care. So we'll go into the ECM. Sorry about the glare. Come on. So trouble codes, see what misfire code we got here. If there is a misfire code, there is. P0301, cylinder 1 misfire. Okay, let's go to live data. Let's look at our misfire data, actually right there. Let's look at all of our cylinders. It's a 6-cylinder. Go ahead and start it up, and we'll come back. Well, let's leave the camera on. So we'll start it up. Cylinder 1 misfiring, not a hard constant misfire, but it is misfiring. Right there. I guess the guy put new plugs in it, I was told, so that's all the story I got. But it is misfiring, and I can hear it misfiring once in a while. So what we're going to do now, I'm going to do a clear flood crank just to look at a real quick compression, make sure you know how it sounds, and we can go from there. Alright, so we're going to do a clear flood crank. I'm going to smash it to the floor, and I want to hear even tones. If I hear an odd tone, it's just a real quick check to see if you have a loss of compression on a cylinder. Smash it to the floor, that disables the injectors. Not on every vehicle, some vehicles. Crank it over. And it sounds pretty even to me. So, sounds pretty even. If there's a really bad or zero compression, we'd hear do 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 do, and then like a dead spot, and start over. So, we may do a compression check just to eliminate that, to see what the shop was talking about. Well, I pulled spark plug number 1 out, and I cranked it over, and I got 150 psi, which is very good. Apparently the shop in town said that all the cylinders were 90 and one they got 50. So who knows? Like, that's a good thing it's not mechanical. Rings and valves are good, so may check another one here just to compare it to, but that's good to go. So I don't know what that shop's talking about, but yeah, we got good compression on number 1. That's a good thing. All right, since that cylinder was good, 150 psi, I was going to check some more, but these are really hard to get on. We got to get that intake manifold off, or the plenum. So I'm going to use my amp clamp, my VCMI with my oscilloscope, and I'm going to record it on here with the oscilloscope and do a relative compression check. And they're going to be relative to each other, and I'll show you what I'm talking about once I do it. So I'm going to do a clear flood crank it over, and we'll go from there while record data. All right, so we did it. There's a relative compression. So what I want to do now, let me zoom in, get this filtered out to show you what I'm looking at. Let me get the waveform cleaned up with a low pass filter and everything. Alrighty, so I put a low pass filter in there, 3000 hertz, which is fine. but I cleaned up. So these are compression humps. You want them all to be pretty much even. This one is a little bit low compared to these, but not a whole lot. So I'm looking like the top of the amperage is 104. Yeah, and then you go to the next one, 96. So it's a little bit low. But if you had one that was way down here, you know, way down here, or nothing, it wouldn't be nothing. Still have some kind of line, but it would be way down here. Then it would mean you'd have a hole that's dead. You'd find that by putting a second channel and tracing it and writing the firing order in. But that just tells me I look at one cylinder, have 150 psi, and they're all pretty much even. So that tells me that that they're all good. This compression is good for this thing relative to each other. So that's a good thing. All right, to prove that cylinder 1 is not mechanical, so far we've checked the compression. We did relative compression, they're all even. Now, to prove that this is cylinder 1, because that is the firing order, this is number 1, I unplugged the wire to the ignition coil. I ran it for a little bit, and what it does is it throws a P2302 ignition coil 1 secondary circuit, which is because we just unplugged that coil. So that proves that is cylinder 1. Mechanically, the vehicle, or the engine's good. All the cylinders are good. So I don't know why that shop would have said it had low compression. But anyways, now, is it misfiring because ignition coil issues, you know, secondary ignition, primary ignition, or is it a fuel injection? We can hook up our paddle probes for that. We can do injector waveforms. We can do all that. But I also noticed on this vehicle, and I'm not saying this is going to address it, the software from the Mode 9 data for this 2016 is this number that I highlighted. The new software is this. It's got the old stuff that's highlighted. It needs to go to this that ends in AH instead of AF. There's the TSBs that address that. Well, all these TSBs, I just printed one of them, is for the 2016 Jeep Wrangler. So the TSB 182116 Revision B, 182116 Revision B, addresses with the 3.6 engine. Got to reprogram the PCM. The address is P0305, P0300, 335 crankshaft, position sensor circuit, and cylinder 6. Now we have a 301 code. I think they said they had a 305 code perhaps. I'm not sure if they had random codes because they've cleared them a few times. So I'm not saying this is going to fix it, but this needs to be done anyway. So we're going to go ahead and flash this vehicle. We're going to try using YTech 2.0. If that works. If not, I got access to the legacy app files. I already downloaded those, the 3 file bins. So we're going to try YTech 2.0. We'll flash it, and then we'll read our data. And I'm not saying it's going to fix it, but this needs to be done no matter what, because there is a service bolt-in that addresses stuff like this. It needs to be updated. If it still does it, we're going to hook up our secondary ignition probes, fuel injectors, and go from there. But at least eliminate this part of the vehicle issue, or TSB. We're going to get all that set up next. All right, so now I'm going to flash this thing. I got my power supply hooked up, set to 13.7 volts. Maintain battery voltage so we don't break the computer. Key on, engine off. I had to buy 3 subscriptions. I had to buy a YTech Authority for a 3-day pass for $36.75. A 3-day pass for YTech 2.0, $50, and a token for the VIN, which is good for a year, I believe, for 35 bucks. So open up the YTech account. Usually if I was doing the Flash app from 96 to 2009-ish, you can use the legacy one. But I'm going to go to device. It's a non-verified J2534, the Maxi Flash BCMI. It's going to connect to that. Hopefully it connects to that. Unable to verify the DL signature, which I've had issues with that before, so we'll see what happens here. But it did connect to it. One thing that's concerning is that signature. Now I should pull up my Octo account. Can we sign into that real quick? So I'm going to sign in. Alright, I'm signing into my Octo account. I'm going to click on the aftermarket YTech 2 pod. Open this up. Like I said, that DLL signature concerns me. I've had issues before. but it pulled the VIN. 0 TTC, 0 flashes. I'm going to click in here. So right there is a flash available because it's green. I'm going to click on the PCM. There's our vehicle. So there's the old part number, ends in AF and needs to end in AH, so it's out of date. I'm going to click on that. We're going to go ahead and flash it from AF to AH. I'm going to put in here per TSB and customer complaint. Let me type that in quick. All right, so per TSB and customer complaint, hit flash ECU. So now I got to assign a token to it. So hit continue. Now it's going to log me into my Tech Authority account, so hang on. All right, so I'm logging in. Now it says starting a flash. Hopefully this goes through. So that DLL signature I've had issues with in the past. So we'll see here. And that's changing it from AF to AH. So we'll let it do its thing. Battery voltage is at 13.4 volts. Here the car communicating. Again, there's 3 subscriptions. Tech Authority $36.95 for 3 days. YTech 2.0 $50 for 3 days, and a token for $35 per VIN for 1 year. So it's erasing its logical block. This is where I had issues before. The DLL signature. Boom, it just did it again. Error occurred. So it's YTech 2.0 issue. It's going to restart it, but it's going to error out. So we'll let it watch here. It says ECU flash failed. The ECU is not responding to the tool's flash attempt failed. Message returned. The server ECU flash failed. The ECU is not responding. Flash process failed. This is the same exact stuff I got last time because that DL signature. So we could call Tech Authority if it wasn't the weekend and they'd help us fix this. But what we're going to do instead is we're going to use YTech, or not YTech, we're using the J2534 Legacy app. So let me get that set up next. All right, so we're going to open it up again. I don't know why it's doing that with this YTech 2.0. They've had issues with that. It's not my J2534 passive device. It's just this YTech crap. So we're going to go to switch to the flash application. You got to put your files in a special spot. We're going to select our pass-through, Maxi VCMI. Hopefully this goes through. Hit start. Hopefully nothing on the old computer got hurt. We'll see here. Let it do its thing. Do you want to update the GPEC ECU part number to AH? Absolutely. So it's starting the flash process. The old part numbers ended in AF. Want to go to AH. Yeah, I don't know why the other one does not work. It just drives me insane. Like YTech 2.0, they need. I know they had an issue. Other people I talked to in the field are having issues with it. So it erased the logical block. That's where it failed in YTech 2.0. But you can still get files in the Legacy app. I know they say it supports up to 2009, 96 to 2009, but this is a 2016 and it's still in the Legacy app. So, which is good. It's a backup so we can actually do this. So we don't want a damn brick computer. So I'm gonna I'm gonna pause this for now until it gets some more action, I guess. Well, it's almost to the end of, well, now it's performing a checksum. Please turn off the ignition key. So ignition key's off. We're going to hit OK. Flashing controller. Should tell us to turn the ignition on here in a sec. Please turn the ignition key on. So key on, engine off. And hit OK. And then good. A flash process completed successfully. Thank God. So now we're going to plug the Ultra back in and read the new part number and do some follow-on programming maintenance for this car. Look at misfires again and go from there. Alrighty, so it flashed good. It started right up. Got the Ultra VCMI plug back in. We're going to do a full system scan. And make sure our software's update and see if there's any erroneous codes we got to clear from the programming process. In the meantime, I'm going to call Tech Authority, YTech 2.0 and Autel and see what's going on with this DLL signature, because if I wanted to do a body control module or something, you have to have YTech 2.0, which we don't need to do on this one, but it's just frustrating that the DLL signature is causing an issue with communicating with programming. But we got it done with the legacy app. So now there's going to be a bunch of codes in here, probably U codes, I'd imagine from, yep, lost comm. U codes. It's all from programming. So what we're going to do is we're going to clear the codes with key on, engine off, and rescan. Anytime you program, stuff's coming in on and off the network. So you want to be able to actually, you know, got to clear the codes, and we'll rerun it here. And then see, and we'll look at our misfire data. I'm not saying that's going to fix it, like I said, but we had to do this process first. Plus, it needed an update. So this is almost done clear. We can go ahead and start it now. Evan's helping out. Go ahead and start it again. No engine light. And let's go over here and read our scan, fault scan one more time. Continuing the scan here. It's all green so far. This is a good thing. So we'll go to the ECM. Now our software should end in AH under our mode 9 data. So we'll go to ECU information. There it is, ends in AH. Same bin, ends in AH. Now let's go to misfire data. Now we still may have to we still got a misfire here. Maybe not. It's zeros. I'm not saying that's the fix, but we had to do this TSB because we were at this software. Now we're at this software. It changed there for a sec. I think it was just the data refreshing. And that TSB addressed. Well, we got one misfire there. We just need to look at some ignition stuff. But for this 2016 Jeep Wrangler, I mean, it's significantly better than it was before. When I first started looking at this filming, this thing was calling up like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I mean, it's pretty constant. Not a direct hit misfire, but it was pretty constant. And we've only had one here so far. There's two. But address these codes. Now he's got the newest software update. Now we can do some secondary ignition stuff. Primary and secondary ignition stuff and injectors and see if we got any issues with that. Just to validate everything, and then we'll go from there. But before we do anything, we should always do a cam crank relearn under special function. After we do this, you should use this function anytime a repair has been made that needs the cam crank relationship to be relearned. So I got to turn the engine off. Since we did an update, we want to, you know, relearn all the parameters, set them everything back up for its baseline. So please start the engine. So once you to start with it off. Cam crank relearn in progress. Cam crank relearn completed, so that's good. We don't have to do anything else in here. No phaser cleaning, throttle control. We probably should do that one too. You wouldn't want to look in your service data, which I'll look in later, to make sure you get everything done correctly. Which I've done a few of these before, so I know exactly what they need to do or what needs to be done. So what we'll do now is we'll do the learn electronic throttle control. All right, so we're going to do the relearn the throttle body or the accelerator pedal and all that. So let me pause it and hit OK. All right, it's better to have it on the steering wheel. Key on engine off. So it's learn in progress, setting default values. Press and hold accelerator at the floor. Okay, I'm holding it to the floor. It's counting down. Using our VCMI. Release and hit OK. It's going to count down again. I think we're going to still have some misfire issues personally, so we're going to have to do coil, primary, secondary wave forms and or injection waveforms and go from there. So electronic throttle is complete, so okay. So all the follow-on maintenance for this is done. The learn pass, the current start stop function would temporarily expire. Okay, yeah, we're good as that. So we're done for that part. Now we need to scope out the primary and secondary ignition on that coil. Again, the compression's good. Look at injectors and go from there. And since we ran it longer, now it's actually starting to misfire again. So cylinder 1 is right there. 24 misfires, 25. So obviously the software update didn't address the entire issue. Now I know the customer had some issues with other injectors, or not other injectors, other misfires and other cylinders. Perhaps we corrected that, and they needed to be done no matter what. But we do have misfires on cylinder 1, and I can hear once in a while. And it only seems like it doesn't when it gets warmer. Sounds like maybe a coil's breaking down. Before we scope it out, we can just swap coils real quick and see if it moves to another cylinder. Well, so what I did is I moved cylinder 1 to 5 and 5 to 1. So if it moves to 5, it's a bad ignition coil. And look, it moved from 1 to 5. So it's a bad ignition coil. Absolutely bad ignition coil. Now, we could have done, you know, primary and secondary ignition. I don't know if I'm going to do that in this video. It takes some time to set up. But it's a bad ignition coil. Nothing wrong with the compression. Nothing wrong with the plugs. None of that. It needs a new ignition coil. Now, we did the software update anyways. Needed to be done so we don't have any erroneous codes like some other codes that he had before. That'll address that issue as well. The cam sensor codes, the other misfire codes. But the actual dead misfire he's having is cylinder 5. And why is it worse when it gets warm? Because the coil's breaking down, the windings in there. Then you get an ignition coil and go from there. Alright, so I'm going to use an oscilloscope here. Got another scan tool. My other one I had to charge up, and I got another ignition probe coming. So this is an ignition probe I made for secondary ignition. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to probe this through the coil pack, coil over plug. And you can see there, let me get it situated on here. There we go. That's a good one right there. Let's go to the bad one, which is back there. We want it to misfire there. It's not misfiring yet. Let's get this coil to heat up a little bit more so we can get it to misfire. Again, there's a good one. There's a good one there. Let's go to the bad one. It's not misfiring yet. There it misfired. There it misfired. There it misfired. Misfired right there. Misfired right there. Misfired right there. Misfired right there. So obviously that's the coil that's bad. Secondary ignition. Because it's just the hotter it gets, the worse it gets. So we're going to go ahead and switch that coil out, make sure our waveform's good and our live data is good, and go from there. Alright, so I got the new coil in the back there. Remember, this was the one that was misfiring, cylinder 1, but we did swap the coils earlier in this video to prove that it was a coil. So the bad one was back there. Now it's a good one back there. So we're going to go in here and read our live data and our waveform and make sure everything's good. Alright, we got it running again. There's our misfire data. All zeros. Go back to our scope. Go to our one that's now good in the back. There we go. It's a good waveform right there. Very good waveform. We go back to our misfire data. All zeros. We'll let it run here a little bit longer just to make sure. Let it heat up. Check it one more time. Kind of go over what we did. Alright, it's been running for about, I don't know, a few minutes now. Still zero misfires. Go to the ignition, waveform. Check in the back there. Waveform looks good. I got other videos that actually talk about what that waveform is supposed to look like, or what it is. That's a good looking waveform, but no misfires. So that's a good fix for this vehicle. So, rewinding, it was taken to a local shop in Mountain Home, Idaho. Apparently they said it had low compression on a cylinder, a couple cylinders, and did have misfires on cylinder 1. I think they said it had misfires on other cylinders. Compression we checked was good, very good. It was very well within the specifications for this engine. And then we did a software update because they had some erroneous codes I didn't see in here, but since we're here, we wanted to do a software update anyway, so it has no future problems with that. We proved it was an ignition coil. So that's it for this 2016 Jeep Wrangler Unlimited with the 3.6 V6 engine.